906:37
906:37
through 917:20.
through 917:20.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
And it's page 274, line 14 through page 291, line 20.
Okay. All right.
And the defense wants in 907:35
907:35
through 907:40. And also 908:12 through 910:50.
Okay. All right, so the defense wants in 907:35 through 907:40, and then 908:12 through 910:50. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Any argument on the issue?
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
Since the disputed times are so close to the beginning of this, we just play it from 906:37. And then we'll get within a minute get to our first issue. So we just have context.
And I would ask, we can play from 906 to 913, because I think that's the entirety of the section.
Okay.
You said you're going to play 906
To 913.
to 913, about 7 minutes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You said that starts at page 274?
Yes, Your Honor. It's going to start at 906:30.
Be like, I'm a little white dog, let me get dressed. And then we gotta come.
They say this is what I did, but it probably don't be true no more. But Lucy was having the guns at his house, and Kevin was staying at this house. This came retrieved. But what house? Lucy got the guns. Lucy got the guns put up for them. And
At his mama house?
I don't know what house it is. It's a picture of them. It's a video of them shooting pool. You know what I'm saying? Whatever house, Lucy kept hiding the guns. And tell them standing over here. So whenever they do it, they go get guns, Lucy, then they come.
So Lucy don't stay in the hood. What, he got like a nice house somewhere? Yeah.
And then that was then now that was before that. Now that Rich Homie Quan buying the guns for them.
He got me confused.
It's true.
I ain't saying you ain't telling the truth. Rich only got me confused.
But they show y'all right there. I ain't got no fuss. I ain't doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because though Rich Homie Quan, it's still cool.
Right.
And I'm right there. I'm right there in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Right there with Rich Homie Quan, right there with Tug. Hey, and guess what? Rich Homie Quan come talk to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's saying he got to do certain stuff because he's a blood. But Rich Homie Quan, he want to get out, but he's scared. Bro, you want to get out? Tell him you done, walk away. You're a fucking millionaire, bro. What you need nigga do to you?
Yeah.
So I told him. You know what I'm saying? You gotta join this shit for protection, bro. You got to stop on your own. And that's what I told him.
But what you got to do to get out? You can just walk away. When you got that much money, you just walk away.
I walk away with no money. But I told him, man, y'all can do what y'all gotta do. Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
I walk right with it. You know what I'm saying? Wait. What y'all mad about? What y'all, you know, now they mad. Ain't no nigga gonna tell me go do shit I don't want to do.
Right.
Ain't no nigga gonna run me. I'm not gonna leave no nigga in jail. Ain't going to hell.
So you mom ain't got no say.
Ain't nobody got no say. I'm gonna do what I want to do. They nigga can't tell me nothing. So if you don't want to walk away, deal with it. And that's what he's going to. He deals with it. He was sitting right there telling me stuff.
He on the treadmill. He on the treadmill just running.
Yeah.
Like he's terrified. Like Rich on the corner is so terrified. Like how he was talking, he was so scared. Like what you scared for, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, man, go throw my brother. And I'm on here with these niggas, you know what I'm saying?
He caught in the middle.
Like, man, you and Thor doing the show together.
Is he safe?
You should have seen the shit Rich on going through. He put up Thor's shoes. Like, I'm like, what the hell?
Putting on his shoes.
He put on his shoes.
Putting his shoes on his foot.
He took his shoes off, put Thor's shoes on, said, why like this? Like, he just Thor. The shit he was doing, like, he was trying to make Thor feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like we family.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
him
turn on you.
like he would have Rich on the corner perform. But all the songs he performed were like his gangster song, like him rapping song like what his song he made, I ain't never been a fuck nigga. He rapped all his song like that. And Thor was in the back. Thor wasn't supposed to perform. But Birdman let Thor perform. So Thor Rich came out. So they played Thor Rich on the corner. Rich on in the front, Thor come to the back. So when Thor first came up, Thor come out of nowhere.
Rich ain't know he was gonna come on stage.
Rich already know.
We're showing like what?
Rich I'm like, hey, now you done got real crunk. You know, you Thor. Now they rapping all on stage. Now you talking about Thor. But he never did it before he seen Thor. Right. You know what I'm saying? So the whole time he doing it, now Thor on now, he had this and that, this and that. No. Then beside that, I'll tell you what I did. When after this got to perform, like he was walking with Thor like that. He was happy to be around Thor. Right. Got outside. So he went to the White House, got a tour at the White House.
In Miami.
Now they got a tour with the drag queen.
Oh, okay.
Pump came in there. And like, fucked up. You know what I want to see. So they were like, security like, we leave out, let's get out the way, let us out.
Yeah.
So drag queen and they get done. But anyway, Rich on the corner, punting, somebody hit his cuff. And Pun got fight with them because they try to hit and run. And Rich on the corner said, what y'all bring the guns down here for if you ain't gonna use it? I'm like, I heard him say, what the hell?
He won't.
So now you don't about guns around.
Yeah.
So he feel like it's like that.
He then, after that, he was just like everything the same. Then he like what, give me your number. And I'm telling you, bro, I'm gonna put you up on game.
You seem like,
Man, I said, give him my number. He put it in the phone, he called. And then he hung up. When I got my phone, he had on me call from. I was like, what the hell? Man, he was like, he tell me everything, like, what he doing, like, he didn't know they showed up, shot up my house at night. He was just like, they called him, like, let us pull up on you. See, Rich on the corner down, they threw up doors down the floor, the boys. And Rich on the corner took him in his room, like, in his floor. What the hell? Rich on the corner showing up where the doors stay.
right, they put them up on you.
Yeah, so I'm like, so Rich on the corner, he didn't know. Like, man, bro, you tripping. He was like they want to make him a big homie now. Like, Nut died, and now he step up to the plate.
Cool.
Rich on the corner.
How you gonna be the big homie? He's scary as fuck, but he got the money.
Then I said, you know why they want you to step up? Because you got money, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody gonna eat.
They need you for your money. He's like, I know, bro. But he's smart. He's very smart. And he's like, I'm smarter than that, though, bro. You know what I'm saying? Basically, down, you need me for protection. Who you need to protect by, bro? Ain't nobody got no problem with nobody. Ain't nobody string you.
I heard Greedy was next in line.
Okay. All right.
So, speaking for myself, for Mr. Stillwell, the 90735 to 90745 but we had it as 40, but I think it's more accurately to 45. It's Kenneth Copeland saying, Doug and Rich Homie are still cool. I'm right there with them, which is certainly, from my observations, Mr. Lamar, who's Rich Homie Quan, has not testified as of yet, but there's been certainly in the state's proffers, and my understanding of the state's theory is that there is some dispute brewing between Rich Homie Quan and Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, that plays a role in the motive for the killing of Donovan Thomas. That's what they've said. So the relationship between Jeffrey Williams and Rich Homie Quan is very much an issue. Kenneth Copeland says, I'm right next to both of them. I see it. These are his observations. So we think that that's very relevant. That should be included. 908-12 to 910-50.
One more time, 908, you said 908.
908-12 to 910-50. There's two things that are relevant about that. Mr. Copeland reacts or says he reacts kind of mystified at Mr. Lamar, Rich Homie Quan, being scared to walk away from the Bloods. And that's important because then Mr. Copeland says, you know, why are you scared? You got money. You just walk away. Just do what you want to do. Just walk away. And then Kenneth Copeland says, that's what I did. I just walked away. And no one tells me what I'm going to do. He says, ain't nobody going to tell me nothing that I'm going to do. And that's very central to this case because the narrative being pushed by the state is that Mr. Jeffrey Williams and others are the puppet masters that order everyone else what to do. Now, our stance is that YSL is not a gang, and YSL certainly is not structured in a way where anyone tells anyone else what to do. So Mr. Copeland's statements about nobody telling me what to do, I never did anything for anyone else, are very relevant. And his views on whether other people can force him to do things are very relevant. Finally, in that same excerpt that between 908-12 and 910-50, Mr. Copeland goes back to the relationship between Jeffrey Williams and Rich Homie Quan, and he goes on to tell things that he personally observed, a story to illustrate his point about how close they are, about how Rich Homie Quan put on Jeffrey Williams' shoes and was wearing his shoes and saying how much he likes the shoes, and we're performing at a show together and hugging each other and those sort of things. So it illustrates his personal observation that Jeffrey Williams and Rich Homie Quan are in fact tight and close, which runs contrary to the state's theory in this case. Now, after 1050, they start talking about totally unrelated incidents, some alleged fight with a drag queen at Waffle House. Those are Mr. Copeland's words. We don't think that that's relevant or should be admissible, but the relationship between Rich Homie Quan and Mr. Williams is Mr. Jeffrey Williams is very relevant to this case.
So, I'm sorry, after 1050, give me the complete.
910-50, he starts going into some other things that we don't think are relevant. He starts talking about an incident at Waffle House in the parking lot, some fight with what Mr. Copeland says were drag queens. I'm just using his words.
When did it start? Because I think 910, I'm sorry.
910-50 is when it switches to the irrelevant things. So I believe that 907-35 to 907-45 should be played, and 908-12 to 910-50 should be played.
All right. And then after 91050, you're saying it's not relevant for any For any purpose?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if all Coke or all defense counsel agree with me, but that's my stance.
All right. Mr. Steele, anybody else wish to be heard about these particular segments?
I would adopt entirely what Mr. Sharp just said, and I would just add that also for the way the detectives did their investigation, for those reasons that I articulated before, I believe it's relevant because based upon my investigation, Mr. Rich Homie Kwan was never giving guns and storing guns for other people to use on third parties for violence. He was not going to replace Mr. Thomas as the head of a criminal street gang. And this is how I'm going to bring out, I intend to bring out, this is part of the information that the police say that they did their investigation. They don't give us any reports. They don't give us any expert reports. I have no memorandum where they just spoke with people and then the court let in prosecution, pursuant to the prosecution's questions and argument that the police did investigation. Don't say who told you, but what did you learn? And I want to show the jury that they are getting misinformation, knowing misinformation, and constantly, and I don't know how to test other people because I don't have who else they spoke with to rely on in this courtroom, but I would like to show that information to the jury. In addition to that, it is, I don't want to repeat, but Mr. Sharp, I agree with him about the relationship with Mr. Lamar or Rich Homie Kwan and Mr. Williams. He will state that they were playing together after January 1 of 2015. The state put up.
He being who, Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And the state put up Mr. Thomas Sr., who took issue, even though the court has seen and the evidence came out that Mr. Copeland is correct, that Mr. Williams and Mr. Rich Homie Kwan did perform in the middle of January 2015 in Tampa, Florida together, and Mr. Copeland was there, and Mr. Copeland saw the shoes being worn by Mr. Lamar or Rich Homie Kwan that belonged to Mr. Williams, that they were hugging, that they were asked to put on stage together, and that they are, quote, cool, end quote, and that's what you just heard, with one another, which would impeach the state's theory, which is all it is, because it's not accurate. It's objectively inaccurate what the state put up in front of the jury, that Jeffrey Williams somehow was out of sorts with Mr. Donovan Thomas and Mr. Rich Homie Kwan, because somehow Donovan Thomas was involved in Rich Homie Kwan's musical career, and that upset somehow Mr. Brian Birdman Williams and Jeffrey Williams. So that goes directly for impeachment of another witness, and the person has direct knowledge of it. In addition, this part that the state wants to omit.
Which part specifically? The 90735 to 90745 and 90812 to 90850?
It's included in there, but I'll get you the exact times. I'm switching topics about how to get out of a gang. Mr. Copeland is saying I was a member of a gang and all I did of Bloods, and all I did was walk away. There's no repercussions. Meanwhile, the state put up this, quote, hybrid gang expert, detective, very first witness of the case, Belknap, to say that this hybrid gang has its own structure and it's a little fluid, yet Mr. Copeland is explaining how you just walk away one And two, he doesn't take any orders from anyone at any time, which is against what the state is saying, how Mr. Williams is somehow if you remember the opening statement of Lawyer Love, he was the wolf, called him a wolf. I didn't really get it, but the wolf leading the others like a sheep to slaughter. That's how it sounded to me. I'm not saying that's what was said. Anyway, all of those portions, I believe, should be admissible, played, and of course, if the state doesn't want to play them, I understand, but I don't want the court to stop me from cross-examining on those issues. And if Mr. Copeland says I don't remember, I will impeach him.
Right. State?
Your Honor, the state
I'm
has,
assuming you're not gonna play in your direct, is that right?
no, we will.
You wanna play those particular?
Yes, Your Honor. So what the state will be requesting is that all of it be played, not portions of it. And so from 906:37 to 907:18, that is when Mr. Copeland is talking about Rayshawn Bennett and having guns. That part we would keep out, but everything that has to deal with Rich Homie Quan, we would ask to be played. So that would be from 907:18, or we will play, excuse me. That'll be from 907:18 to 910:50. That's the first portion. We will redact the portion about the Waffle House and the drag queens because
That's after 10, that's 9:10:50.
to 9:11:30.
To 9:11:30?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll could play from 9:11:31 to 9:13.
What's represented in that particular
That is
section?
some further conversation about the relationship with Rich Homie Quan. That's going to be on from page 281, line 24 through 284, line 7.
Okay.
And then after from 9:13 to 9:17:20, we would ask to continue to be, that we will redact or we won't play that
So
portion.
you said 9:13 to 9:17?
20, yes, Your Honor. We will not play. And Your Honor, you know, this notion again, I think Mr. Steele has said it on multiple occasions that he's trying to impeach what the investigators did or their investigation. Your Honor, what the court will hear in this interview, as well as the February 28th interview, February 21st interview, and the June 10th interview, is that our investigators, Dennis and Gaither, consistently say to Mr. Copeland, what you're telling me here, we have to verify. We have to get other evidence. So we can't just take what you're saying here as gospel. We have to verify it. So when they talk about on the stand that they had other parts of their investigation that they could not speak about, they tried to verify anything that Mr. Copeland said occurred, whether that was by phone records, whether that was by other independent evidence. And so when Mr. Steele continues to say, we're trying to impeach or show the jury that this was all their investigation, it is not. What they talked about in these interview rooms, they didn't just run with it. They made sure they could corroborate it in a number of different ways. For example, even with Mr. Copeland here, when he was arrested for having a gun, they didn't take out charges immediately. They found videotapes. They did other parts of their investigation. So this notion that all the detectives did was take what Mr. Copeland said and then swore out warrants is just it's an incorrect statement about how this investigation took place.
All right.
And so we agree that we're going to let in those portions of this particular interview.
All right, Mr. Shard, it looks like that the state's gonna omit the portion with the purported fight with a drag queen from 9:10:50 to 9:11:30. And it seems like they're not gonna play 9:13 to 9:17. Do you have any disagreement or you want to be heard any further in that respect?
It sounds like also they're not going to play sounds like they're also not planning on playing 906-37 and 907-35. Correct?
I don't, are you, madam?
From 906-37 to 907-18.
You're not going to play.
We will not.
Okay. Well,
Do you wish to have that played? That's the very beginning of the
That-
tape, so.
It's talking about Rashawn Bennett having guns at his house.
the parts that they're seeking to omit deal more with Mr. Steele's argument about their investigation. So I'm going to
All right,
allow him to respond to that.
It's the same thing. If Mr. Copeland is lying to the police, then that is relevant. He is saying that Mr. Bennett is housing guns at his home. I'm going to challenge him because I don't believe he has any information on that, but that's what he alleged to the So it is another way of showing that Mr. Copeland is a liar to the police. He has lied about Mr. Williams being involved in these crimes. And I don't know how that is being excluded. He said he has personal observation. He did not say, I heard about it, I'm speculating, I'm making it up. He said Mr. Bennett, who's known as Lucci, YFN Lucci, is providing guns to his gang members, something to that effect. That's not the way he said it, but that's what he was housing guns in his home. So I would like to cross-examine on that and play that recording.
okay,
Oh, and one other.
yes, sir.
The fact that the state is claiming that the investigators corroborate, I'm not accepting that. I have zero information on how they corroborated. They throw out phone records. They said earlier that the phone records support Mr. Copeland's supposed alibi. That's not accurate. But we can let the jury decide. But I'm not accepting when I don't know how the police, I have no reports how they went out and said, okay, Mr. Bennett has guns at his home. Well, we found out that that's true. Well, we found out that that's not true. We spoke with this person. We have a video. I don't have any of that. I'm stuck with law enforcement saying, we go through these 6 criteria in policy, which I objected to under Olson, O-L-S. I think it's O-N, but it might be E-N, versus state decided this year. It was done by the Honorable Don Samuel, case by the Georgia Court of Appeals. Judge Rickman, the Chief Judge Rickman, or then Chief Judge Rickman, wrote the opinion. And the policy doesn't matter. So I'm stuck with this, I don't know what we'd call it, this expert who just says, don't challenge me, but I corroborate it. I'm not going to tell you how I corroborate it, but just believe it. And now I am challenging it through the way they conduct this investigation. This conversation, if this is how the City of Atlanta Police Department experts conducted all their investigations, it's all, what did you hear? What did you think? And that's what I want the jury to take into consideration. So I would like to put in probably a false allegation against Mr. Bennett. But either way, false or not false, it's relevant to me. And I don't know under what theory it is being excluded, because Mr. Bennett is a supposed victim in the case. He's supposedly a gang member. He was charged in another division in your courthouse before the Honorable Judge Cox. He entered a guilty plea in 2024. I don't remember the date, maybe in January of this year. He is in custody. He got a 10-year sentence. Supposedly, and we need that, by the way, the district attorney's office wrote a letter to the parole board on his behalf for early release. That's Brady evidence, because he's a witness on the witness list. And I don't have any of that, but I don't understand why it's not coming in. This is how the investigation is conducted. And Mr. Copeland, that there are guns at the man's house to use offensively against other people in a criminal street gang. Everyone has guns at their house, but this is in a context of a criminal having guns at his house, and it's another false allegation by Mr. Copeland. So for all those reasons, I would ask that it not be excluded.
I'm just going to correct the record because I'm not sure what Mr. Steele's talking about. So what Mr. Copeland says here, and he says it very clearly, is that Lucci was having the guns in his house. He said, this comes from Trivia. So this is what he says. He says, this comes from Trivia. Trivia is a young lady who was dating Shell Kell and an individual by the name of Antonio Sledge. So again, he's relaying information that he's hearing. Mr. Copeland did not say to either of these investigators, I know for a fact Lucci has guns in his home. What he said was, this came from Trivia. Regardless, Your Honor, the portion about Lucci, if their whole argument is they want to show that Rich Homie Quan and Mr. Williams were friends during this time period, that's everything after 906. That's everything after 907-18. Either what they said is relevant is the fact that there was a relationship with Rich Homie Quan and Mr. Williams sometime in January of 2015. Whether or not Lucci had guns at his house and that Trivia told Copeland that Lucci had guns in his house is not relevant. If they want to cross him on that at some other time, then we will object at that time if necessary. But for the state's purpose, we're not playing it. If they choose to play it, we'll object at the appropriate time. But again, what they purported is they want to talk about the relationship between Rich Homie Quan and Jeffrey Williams. That is the portion that the state is going to play because that is what is relevant right now.
All right. Are you, I meant to ask, is from the any of the defense, are you are you in agreement or disagreement with the state about anything that's played between 913 and 917? It's clear they're not going to play 910-50 through 911-30. The issue with the drag queen, the fight with the drag queen. They're not playing that. But I'm trying to just figure out whether or not, because what I hear the state saying is, and I hear the defense saying is, there are these issues that they are going to play in regards to Copeland, Rich Homie Quan, the relationship that you've mentioned from 907-35 to 907-45, and then 908 to 12 or thereabouts to 908-50, and then they're going to play 911-31 to 913. So, Mr. Shard or Mr. Steele or anybody else, any issues with anything from 913, 917 that you want to have argument about or discussion?
Trying to find that in our training.
I just want to make my ruling clear. It seems like Mr. Steele and Mr. Sharp, whatever the state's not playing as part of the direct, you certainly can ask on cross. But I need to complete this 913 to 917 because I don't think we've discussed that.
Would you allow us to briefly listen to that exact portion? Answer that question out.
You want to play it?
I mean, you can play. I can play with Mr. Steele right now.
Just so we can give an informed decision. Because again, our transcripts are a little different in the timing, so I don't.
I tell you what I'll do then. The hour being about 1:45, you all can do that. I will come back at 2:45, and then that'll be the first item of business we'll take up, okay?
Okay,
Is that, and then also, if you have any other parts of this particular interview that you wish to be discuss or include, or for examination, I'll hear those at that time, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna be in recess until 2:45.
All right, y'all. So we going to recess for lunch. About 2:45 ish. With this joker, it'll probably be about 3 o'clock. So we gonna go ahead and break, and we'll be back when they back. Yep, exactly time. Another long ass, unnecessary ass break. All right, y'all. So we'll be back in a bit. I appreciate y'all for hanging out. I'll see y'all on the flip side of this break. Till then, take care.